thewellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives.
You're listening to A Quirky Journey, the healthy family podcast with your hosts Jo Whitten and Fuad Kasab. Hello everyone, welcome to A Quirky Journey. This is Jo Whitten, your host. I don't have Fuad with me sadly this weekend, but he'll be back soon. Today I'm really excited about interviewing Shelly from Nourishing Bites. She has a really interesting story about her journey through PCOS and changing her diet and then learning how to cook beautiful, delicious food that is healthy but still a really delicious treat. So I think you're going to love this podcast. So if you have any questions or feedback or you just want to get in touch, feel free to email me at help@quirkycooking.com.au. There's also the Quirky Cooking chat group where you can go and ask any of your food-related, healthy living type questions. There's a lot of people in that group, like getting close to 40,000, I think, that will be able to answer you, and we all have a good chat in there. There's also the Quirky Gaps group on Facebook and, of course, the Quirky Cooking Facebook page and Instagram. And you'll also find me on YouTube, and you can listen to the podcasts on YouTube as well. So hopefully we'll catch up in the new year, if not before. Meanwhile, enjoy this podcast. I'll just tell you a little bit about Shelly before we begin. So Nourishing Bites began as a market stall, as a lot of food products do begin at markets, don't they? In 2013, Shelly began making her beautiful, delicious treats because she had to change her diet due to health issues. So she's going to tell her story in the podcast, so I won't give that away, but just wanted you all to know about this beautiful small business located in Townsville. They've been through a really rough time in Townsville in the past year or so with all the flooding and then all the mold remediation and rebuilding and everything that's been going on there. And a lot of businesses have had to close their doors. Shelley's still holding on. So you know what? If you can support a small business that's been through a rough time by buying some Christmas presents there, do it. I know there's a lot of businesses out there struggling due to floods and bushfires. And, you know, we can all do our part to help them because you're going to buy Christmas presents somewhere, so try and make it in Australia. Yay! So we've got some ideas for presents, but we've also just got a beautiful podcast about a health journey and where it led to. This is not a sponsored podcast, but I would totally love it if you went and had a look at Nourishing Bites page. I think you'll really love what she has to offer. And it's such a beautiful business with really good ingredients in the treats, so you don't have to worry about, reading all the ingredient labels and trying to find something that you can eat. I'm pretty sure most of you will be able to find something that you can eat with these beautiful, delicious treats. Okay, enjoy the podcast. I hope it's a treat for you. Bye, everyone. Welcome, Shelley. It's so nice to have you on the show.
Thanks, Jo, and thanks very much for the opportunity to come and chat with you and your audience today about our little business and my health journey.
Oh, I'm so excited to share your delicious goodness with everybody. Guys, I've been snacking on Nourishing Bites for a few years now. I have to tell you a little story. When we started GAPS, you know, your diet is so, you feel like your diet is so small with the amount of foods you can have, and it feels very difficult at first. And it was only probably a few months in, and Shelley, you contacted me and said, I would love to send you some of my Nourishing Bites treats to try. And I was like, oh no, I won't be able to eat any of them. And they just look so amazing. I was feeling quite devastated. And you're like, no, I'll make sure that they're all GAPS friendly. I'm like, really? And you sent me that beautiful little box of treats. And I remember sitting out on the picnic blanket with the kids outside, and we were just like in heaven. It was like, I think it was one of our first treats on the GAPS intro journey. So thank you so much for that. I will never forget it.
You're welcome. We're so excited to see that you and your family enjoyed them.
And every year your Christmas treats come out and I start drooling over the chocolate hazelnut truffles and things like that. And we will definitely share some photos with the listeners. But guys, if you want Christmas presents, I just have to say it up front, go and have a look at her site because you can order them online all over Australia, and the little chocolate hazelnut Christmas trees are what I definitely want to order this year. All right, but first we should get into your story first so they know what we're talking about, shouldn't we? It's just important to begin with chocolate.
That's right.
But tell us a little bit about, so before we get into Nourishing Bites and your beautiful, delicious business, maybe you could tell us a bit about yourself, because you have a really, you have your own interesting health story that I think a lot of women out there will relate to. So maybe you could talk us through what you've been through with your health.
Yeah, sure. No problem, Jo. So when I was 16, I, like many other young ladies, was diagnosed with PCOS, and this was in the early 90s, mind you, showing my age, and there wasn't a lot known about it or how to treat it back then. So when the symptoms became really difficult to manage, and they, for me, were things like swinging between either no period for months on end and suffering low energy and kind of erratic hormones and moods as a result, to having extremely heavy periods for a couple of months, suffering from extended periods of insomnia, unwanted hair growth that no teenager wants to deal with. My mum and I decided to start seeing some medical specialists to get some answers, and we went to many. And I was put on various medications that unfortunately not only didn't help, but in many cases made my symptoms worse and the kind of hormone imbalances worse. Right. So after a few years of going through that process, I decided to stop and just kind of manage with the symptoms. That wasn't great, but was better than kind of yo-yoing all over the place on these drugs. But when I met my lovely husband in my early 20s, and later on we decided we wanted to have children, it became a big issue to deal with again, because as you would know, it has quite a big impact on fertility. And in fact, the medical specialist that we saw together said that it would be really difficult for us to fall pregnant, that I would almost certainly need heavy hormone therapy and likely IVF. And whilst we weren't adverse to any of those things, we really wanted to be sure that we'd exhausted all the possible options for treating PCOS first. So that set us on a path of looking at natural ways to manage PCOS. And the first thing I did was go on a low GI diet. And whilst that certainly helped with my energy, my overall mood and also my weight, it didn't resolve my cycle issues. And, even in my late 20s, I could go for 6 months without a period. So
wow.
I kept looking. And then the next thing I looked at was the link between inflammatory foods and PCOS. And that led me to cutting out gluten and dairy. And again, that had a really positive impact on my health generally, because I discovered that I was highly intolerant to both, and by cutting them out, I felt a lot better. And my digestion worked a lot better, but again, I still couldn't resolve the irregular cycles. And then at that time, a lot more research was being done around the link between PCOS and insulin resistance. And through that, I started to look at lowering my carb level so that I wouldn't have such an insulin load to deal with. And I cut out grains. And it was incredible. I went from being someone who'd never had a regular cycle to within a few weeks having a period, and then being like clockwork.
That quick.
It was amazing. And this was a person who'd had suffered from the age of 16 through to her mid-30s, and all of a sudden it all just kind of fell into place. And we were so lucky that within 3 months of that happening, we felt pregnant with
Oh, my goodness.
a beautiful little boy who's now almost 4 and full of energy and attitude. Naturally, he was a miracle for us, and we are we're so grateful for him and so glad that we decided to walk our own path and look at those natural measures, because that's not only made me as a person a lot healthier. We have our child, my husband's has since followed the path in this path, and it's really helped him to manage anxiety. And our son has born into our family, a family eating a whole food diet, and as a result, I think he's really, really healthy, super energetic, sometimes too energetic, but I think we've set him up well in life as well with this way of eating.
Yeah. That's wonderful. You do hear these stories now and then. Actually, I've heard a few times people telling me that they went onto a whole food, grain-free, low inflammatory diet, and finally everything fell into place, and they've been trying for kids and they never could, and then they got pregnant so quickly. And it just amazes me at how simple, really, when you look at it, that's so much simpler than taking heaps of medications and going through IVF and all that. I'm so glad that you managed to avoid all of that, and it's heartbreaking for people that have to go through that, and it's such an encouragement to hear that it can be simple like that. Do you feel like it's been difficult to stick to this way of eating? Like, have you had to stay that strict, or do you feel like,
in the early days, it was hard because there weren't many options out there. You could just go to the supermarket and buy gluten and dairy-free things. It was a struggle, and so in the early days, it was definitely harder, especially in the sweet area. I'm definitely a chocoholic.
And if we can't have our sweets, what's the use of living?
That's how I felt, and that's why I started creating my own, because there was no, I wasn't going to continue without having treats that I could have.
Yeah.
So I set about creating those and sharing them with everyone I knew, because if I did that, I could make more and then eat more. I really, really enjoyed it and actually discovered a passion for it. And when I realised that I was rushing home from my corporate job to bake and then rushing back into work to share my treats to get feedback so I could bake it that night, I realised that maybe I wasn't where I should be at career-wise, and started to think about actually pursuing my passion as a business.
Oh, that's amazing. So going back to when you were younger, did you grow up just eating the Western diet? Was it pretty much just the usual kind of Aussie diet?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Okay. And how long do you think it took you to work through the changes in your diet? Like a few years, or?
Yeah, it was a really gradual process.
Yeah.
So it started in 2008, and it wasn't until, I fell pregnant in 2015. So it was a 7-year process, a long journey. And I think that was needed, because I discovered more and more things about PCOS and how to work with it as I went along. Also, I think if you can, making changes gradually rather than trying to cut out 10 things all at once is much more sustainable and much easier to digest. Obviously, if you have a diagnosis like celiac disease that means no gluten now, never again, that's a different thing. But
that's right.
When I talk to my customers, I always suggest that if you can, take it step by step. Take thing out of your diet at a time. A, because it's easy to deal with, and B, so that you can see what the impact of each thing actually is as you take them out on your overall well-being.
Yes. It's really good that you mentioned that, the length of time it took, because I think it can get, people get very excited about jumping in and want to do everything at once, and then you can easily crash and burn because it was too much at once and you just gave up. But it takes time, and but it's so worth it.
Absolutely. And a lesson I had to learn the hard way too was kind of trying to be 80-20 about it as well. Like in the days, I was so excited that I was extremely strict and rigid.
Yes.
And especially when I moved to Townsville and I was trying to get out and meet new people, and there weren't many options here. It was a real struggle trying to be 100% all the time.
Yeah.
And it kind of made me really stressed, and that, you know, that can undo the effects of eating well, stress.
Yes, so true.
Over time, I kind of realised where I had flexibility. I knew for me I had no flexibility with gluten because I'd react straight away, but over time I realised if I had dairy once in a while, I was going to be okay.
Yeah.
And so learning to be a little bit more relaxed with myself and eat to kind of my diet 80% of the time was something that was much more doable, sustainable and manageable for me and my family.
Yes.
My husband, he was very supportive, but it was a big, you know, shock for him, all of this change as well.
No, that's so true. I think if you learn to listen to your body, you can, like you say, you can figure out which areas you can have a bit of flexibility with, but sometimes there's areas you can't.
Absolutely. And if I could share any other advice, when I was studying to be a health coach with the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, they introduced me to a concept called crowding out.
Yes.
And you would be familiar with it, Joe. And it was really helpful for me to change my mindset to not looking at food and saying, I can't have this and I can't have that, i.e. thinking about a sort of restrictive diet, but really just focusing on adding in good things, wholesome things into my diet that would lead me to naturally just kind of forget about the things that weren't so good to my body, because my body would naturally let go of those things. And especially with treats, that really worked. Once I started making those, you know, rich, decadent brownies with coconut oil and pure dark chocolate, I forgot about the dairy milk miraculously.
Yes. And doesn't it taste awful when you have cheap chocolate that's made with heaps and heaps of sugar and all sorts of ingredients that really aren't in traditional chocolate, but they just help the manufacturers to make money by fluffing them out. And then you taste real chocolate and it just doesn't compare, and you just don't want the other stuff anymore, right?
Absolutely. I couldn't go back there again.
No.
And I grew up loving Ferreros. Every Christmas I'd get a box of 16 in my Santa and they'd be gone by 10 o'clock. I love them. So one of the first things I said about creating was a chocolate hazelnut replacement, and you'll see when you look in our Christmas shop that the menu's heavily dominated by chocolate hazelnut treats, and that's because of me and my childhood addiction to Ferreros. But
and you've done an amazing job with what's your chocolate hazelnut spread called?
It's called Heavenly Hazel.
That's it. That is so delicious. You can just eat it out of the jar, but you probably shouldn't just eat it out of the jar. Well, not too much.
I find it hard to go past that, and so many of our customers do. We have some very high consuming customers, and they include us, of course. We have some regulars who buy 2 kilo tubs on a nightly basis, and they're using it as their treat. So they just spoon it out of the tub, but they'll have a spoon of that, and then they won't crave anything else, and that's their kind of for the day.
It's actually a very, as you call it, nourishing bite. So it's nutrient dense and filling, and you just have a little bit and you don't need more. And I've even found with your beautiful truffles that I'll just have half of one, and that's good enough for me, and I'll half it with someone because they're so rich and filling. Can I just ask you how you got into your interest in cooking? Did you grow up cooking or just discover that you liked it later?
So I've always loved eating. Loved food. I was pretty busy with kind of school and extracurricular things as a kid, so I didn't bake much except for rich chocolate slice. I'd always, whenever I craved that, I'd bake it. But it was really through this health journey that I discovered my love for cooking, and that was in my mid-20s. So when I first told my family that I was going to open Nourishing Bites selling food, they had to giggle just because it wasn't something that I did before, but they really got behind me. And,
that's good.
I guess I'm the sort of person that whatever I do, I have to do 150%. So
Yes.
I work and work and work at our recipes until they're both wholesome and really delicious, because otherwise they're not a treat and there's no point, and you'll want something naughty. So
that's right.
I don't stop until it's right. Like on some recipes, we've got to version 50 before I say, yep, we're there. And my family and friends have been very understanding and supportive in that regard, because they're
helping to taste it all.
Well, yeah, and it doesn't sound like a burden, but when you get the 50th version,
true. Okay, I don't want any more chocolate hazelnut, please.
Right, and they're like, I can't tell the difference anymore, Shelley. They're all the same. And I'm like, no, but they're not.
That's so funny. Well, just send them up here. I'll taste it for you.
Thank you. We'll do that as well.
I'm sure you'll have a waiting list of people emailing, if you need tasters.
Because we want them to be the best, absolute best that they can be.
So they're gluten-free, dairy-free, and refined sugar-free. And it's completely celiac-friendly, your factory, your, what do you call it, facility? So people who are celiac, can they definitely have it?
Absolutely. So we don't allow any gluten in any form into our facility.
That's cool.
It's such so sensitive for celiac sufferers that I decided from the beginning that you're either in gluten or you're not. And so, we
just makes it simpler that way.
Absolutely. Then we're 100% sure that there's no risk of contamination for our celiac customers. We also offer many vegan options too.
Yes.
For the growing number of people that make the choice or need to eat vegan for various reasons.
And paleo, and like I said, GAPS. So what sweeteners do you usually use?
We use a combination of unrefined sweeteners depending on what we're making and what taste profile we're going for. We use coconut sugar. We use medjool dates. We use raw local honey. And we also use some brown rice syrup.
Okay, yep. That's good. So I'd love for you to tell me a bit about the side of your business where you're trying to work towards Australian indigenous foods, because you were talking to me about that the other day, and that's really interesting to me.
Yeah, sure. So we are an indigenous business. My husband and I own the business together, and he's indigenous. His family's from Thursday Island in the Torres Strait, as well as from Shelbourne Bay in Cape York. And food has always been an important part of his diet, and we want to incorporate that culture that he brings to our family and to our child into what we do. And a big part of that is because the indigenous botanicals that we have in Australia are not only local to our countries, so using them supports local industry, particularly in indigenous industry, but they are truly superfoods. We have some incredible superfoods in our own backyard, and we, like everybody else, are guilty of previously embracing all the global trends of goji berries from China and Inca berries from South America, and not realising that we could be utilising our own amazing superfoods.
They're just as good, if not better.
Absolutely. So in our Christmas range this year, we've included some chocolate bars, which are infused with indigenous botanicals like lemon myrtle, which has excellent antimicrobial properties. Wall seed with our hazelnut chocolate that is really rich in protein and other antioxidants. Then in a tropical bar, we've used kakadu plum powder, and this is one of the most powerful, most potent superfoods on the planet. It has the highest recorded levels of vitamin C of any known food. It has off-the-chart levels of antioxidants and a load of other benefits. So we're bringing those into our treats. so that we're embracing our heritage, but also using these amazing things in our own backyard.
So good.
And reducing our food miles as well, because we want to support local and use local Australian ingredients wherever we can.
And you also use the local, Far North Queensland macadamias.
Yes, so you would know, Joe, that we make a delicious vegan macadamia slice, and we use macadamias from Wanderee Farms in the Atherton Tablelands.
Yay.
They're not certified organic, they are farmed organically.
Yeah. I've been out to the farm and done a tour and seen how they grow them. It's great.
Yeah, and they're a lovely, lovely family, so we also feel good about supporting their family enterprise.
So good when you can find these amazing local producers and use their products and know that you're helping people with their health as well as helping an amazing business that's local and Australian. Yay!
Yeah. Well, we use a lot of chocolate, given my chocolate addiction, in our products. And we use Origin chocolate, an artisan bean-to-bar producer in Orange, New South Wales.
Yes. I was just looking them up the other day. I didn't know you used their chocolate. Okay.
We do. So in all of our products, we use a little bit of cacao powder, but we think in order to make them really rich and decadent and satisfying, we use pure chocolate rather than just the cacao powder element.
Yes.
And we use a lot of their chocolate, and we've just started recently working with Ratio Cocoa in Melbourne, another bean-to-bar artisan producer.
Okay.
And, they have amazing vegan chocolate products, so we're using their vegan milk and vegan white in this Christmas range, and it's just amazing, the taste profile and the texture.
So what do they put in their vegan milk chocolate for the creaminess?
The coconut milk powder.
Okay, yep.
And it's really, really great, and we're very excited to be using it.
And I noticed the Origin chocolate, they have the 100% chocolate with no sweeteners, and that's probably what you're basing it on. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they also have keto-friendly chocolate,
yes.
which is 70% cacao and 30% coconut milk powder. So that's a keto-friendly chocolate. Like if you're eating it straight, 100, although I don't find it very bitter, it might be intense for others. So, but that 70% keto one is really palatable.
Yeah, I've had it before when I've made it myself that way without any sweetener, but with the coconut milk, the coconut powder or like a coconut butter to balance it, and it just takes away that little tinge of bitterness, and you don't really need the sweetener. You can get used to not having it at all. So good.
Yeah, absolutely. And Matt at Origin, he takes pride in the fact that he conches or marinates his chocolate cacao beans for a good 5 days, and that helps to remove a lot of the bitterness.
Yes, and it also helps it to be more digestible.
Exactly. So,
that's really good to know. Okay. I'll have to order some of their chocolate as well as some of your treats now. This is going to be a very chocolatey Christmas. Actually, every Christmas is chocolatey for me.
Yeah, I know. Me too, right? Like, I've already eaten like 3 years worth of doing the taste testing.
I bet. I was very disappointed I didn't get to pop into your facility when I was down in Townsville recently, but was just all too busy. But next time I'm definitely coming in. So can you tell us a little bit about, so we'll go back to your everyday way of eating. Can you tell us a little bit about what you have for breakfast, lunch and dinner, like the types of foods that you eat? Just give us a little idea of your day.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So breakfast tends to be high protein, high fat. In fact, a lot of our meals are. So and because I'm busy during the day and can't always stop for long, I make sure that I'm having like meat. I have quite a lot of meat protein in the morning, or animal protein, whether that be meat or eggs. We use Bengali Creek biodynamic eggs, which are just amazing in our products and at home.
Yeah.
And lots of avocado, and then lots of fresh or cooked veggies.
Yeah.
And can you believe my son loves all of this stuff too, just because he doesn't know any other way.
Well, that's it. You start them on the right track and they just love it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's when I eat. Then then for lunch it'll be more a salad base.
Mm-hmm.
So I love sauerkraut. So that's always the key component, fresh veggies. I have fallen in love with botanical cuisines, macadamia, Persian feta.
Oh.
I don't know if you've tried it, but it's delightful.
What is it called again?
Botanical Cuisine is the brand. They're another artisan producer in Melbourne, and it's macadamia Persian feta.
And where do you buy that?
At the local health food store.
Okay, I'm going to look out for that. You've got some good health food stores in Townsville.
Yeah, we're very lucky, actually.
I'm just thinking of a friend who can't eat dairy who would love that.
It's amazing. I grew up loving goat's feta, marinated feta. I think it's a really close equivalent. And we have a pop-up cafe on weekends, and we serve it on our own homemade toast, and people just love it. So it's not just me.
Yum.
So I'll often have that as another component. So lots of fresh veggies at lunch, some more protein if I'm really hungry, sauerkraut, and for the creaminess, it'll often be that macadamia feta. And then for dinner's quite similar to breakfast for us, really. Protein and lots of veggies, and then condiments. Mm-hmm. So condiments like kraut. Sometimes we'll use hummus. We'll use gluten and dairy-free dips just to add that, lift up level, I guess you could say, the meals that we're making that are really simple, made from the best quality fresh ingredients that we can get.
Funny how you can really take a meal to another level just by having a few sides on hand. And I love to have in my fridge, things like pate and, like you're saying, a nut cheese or some kind of cheeses if you can have dairy, and the different fermented veggies. And what else did you just say? Dips.
Yeah, sometimes we love hummus. So we'll a lot of the Pilpel hummus.
Okay.
That's a supermarket brand, but it's really high quality and pure.
Okay.
I'd love to make all of these things myself.
You don't have time.
So I'm always recommending to friends all the kind of brands we've discovered over the years, because we just it's good to support other businesses, and we just don't have time.
At the time, and that's a good point to make, because people don't have time to make everything. My business is cooking from home, and so it's kind of like I do probably make more things than most people would, but most people are going off to work and they don't have time to make all these bits and pieces. So it's good to find, businesses like yours that have really pure ingredients and they're delicious. So I really appreciate hearing about them.
Well, thank you. Well, that's a big part of why we started Nourishing Bites. When we arrived in Townsville, there weren't many options. Yet, like everywhere else in Australia, there were plenty of people and a growing number of people with dietary considerations. So by setting up a business making these things, I was building a business, but with the purpose of assisting or serving other people in our community with similar dietary considerations, or the growing number of people that don't have particular considerations but want to embrace natural, simple, wholesome foods.
Yeah, definitely. So for those people out there listening who are just on the beginning of their journey and trying to start working towards eating like you do, maybe because they have PCOS or maybe because they're working through other health issues, can you give us a couple of the first steps that you feel made the most difference? I know you said removing gluten, but like more specific, like some of the swaps that you did, or what kind of things would you suggest to start with?
So for me, rather than cutting anything out to begin with, I started adding in food. So I firstly looked at my vegetable intake and realised that wasn't where it should be at.
That's pretty normal for most people.
My water first. I know they told me this at the Institute, and I thought, I consume a decent amount of water, and I realised I didn't. So that was really simple, but it actually made a difference, because I think I discovered that part of my sweet cravings were being confused with thirst.
Uh-huh.
And when I had adequate water, I realised that some of the sweet cravings subsided.
Yeah.
And I felt better generally. So that was probably the first thing. And then I started to proactively add in more fresh veggies and more fresh fruit. And in order to reduce my cravings for sweets, I also included the sweeter vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
So making sure that I was including things that I love, like carrots and sweet potato and corn in my diet, because although they still have sugar in them, they come with a lot of fiber as well.
Yes.
And the impact of having more of those in my diet, at least initially, was I stopped craving the sugary treats so much. And that definitely helped me. And I'm just trying to think about where I went from there. So starting to build up my fruit and veg,
water,
and starting to make sure I had adequate healthy fats in my diet. So started adding in a lot more nuts, making sure I was having avocado. I loved avocado, but I just increased the quantity.
Yes.
As well as making sure that at least one meal a day for me, and not everybody wants
that much or wants that much.
Wants to eat animal protein or can, but for me it's important. Like that's how I feel good, just consciously increasing that. And I found that once I'd done all of those things, cutting gluten and dairy was a lot easier because my was kind of full of these fresh other things that they kind of dropped off. When I did crave things like bread or pasta, we're really fortunate, at least now, to be in a time where you can purchase high-quality substitutes from a food store.
Yes, true. No, those are really good tips. Thank you. So continuing on with your business now, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're doing for Christmas?
Absolutely. So I would love to tell you. We've recently released online, so our website is nourishingbytes.com.au, a Christmas offer that we can deliver anywhere in Australia.
Which is very exciting.
We're really excited.
My friend in the USA is very disappointed that you're not delivering to the USA.
Well, I promised you the other day, Jo, that I'll look into that. But for at least Hazel, I'm not sure if a Christmas tree would make it all the way.
No, I don't think so. But Australia-wide is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was a big breakthrough for us to figure out how to ship overnight. And so to support that offer, we're offering free shipping for orders over $100 and otherwise a flat rate of $8. So we're trying to make it as accessible as possible.
That's really good.
We've got a broad range of Christmas gift packs available, everything from the $15 price point, which might be great for teacher and colleague gifting. So little Heavenly Hazel gift packs that are beautiful mixed box of chocolate truffles.
Yum. They're my favourite.
Right up to the $30. So then $30 price point, and we've got the Christmas trees that you mentioned earlier, Jo, that I just can't stop eating myself. So you need to buy them so I don't eat them.
And they look so pretty.
Oh, thank you. We have a $50 price point, and that's our best-selling. That's a box of 15 of our absolute best-selling treat, which is the chocolate hazelnut truffle that you mentioned earlier, Jo. And actually, the idea for Heavenly Hazel in a jar came from that, because we were making a fudge for the centre, and one day a customer said to me, "I love what's in the middle so much. I just want to eat that." And kind of the light went on, like, I could put that in a jar, and that's how Heavenly Hazel was born. We have the big packs of those, and then a mixed treat box that ranges from $80 to $120 per box, and it's just a beautiful,
totally amazing
treats. So we would love for you to jump online and check them out. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to email us.
And I'll put the link in the show notes for anyone who needs a link to click on. But if you search Nourishing Bites, what was it, .com.au?
Yeah, that's correct.
You'll find it. And we're also going to do a Christmas giveaway. Woo-hoo.
Hey.
So, guys, if you are on Instagram, keep an eye out on the Quirky Cooking Instagram because Shelley is going to give away some of her Christmas treats on my Instagram very soon. So keep an eye out. It's Quirky Cooking on Instagram. And you'll probably share it on yours too, maybe. Hey, what do you think?
Absolutely. Certainly will.
Yeah. So either one, you'll find it because we just think that everyone should be able to have treats, even if you're on a special diet. It's very important to have something to make you happy, which chocolate does.
Absolutely. That's what we're all about. And at the heart of everything we do is making treats that are not only wholesome but also gobsmackingly delicious, so that you do feel like you're treating yourself and you don't feel like you're missing out. You don't,
Especially coming up to Christmas because, you know, if you're on a strict diet around Christmas, it can be a bit depressing thinking, what am I going to eat? And that brings me to my last question for you. I would love to know, do you have a menu planned already for Christmas, or do you have a basic idea of the kinds of things you usually eat at Christmas? Because I would love for you to share that.
Well, being in tropical North Queensland,
yes,
the traditional roast is difficult.
Yes. Especially in Townsville. Whew, so hot.
It's really hot at Christmas. So we have a lot of fresh seafood, which is amazing. You know, you can get amazing local fish and seafood up here. So for Christmas, we'll be eating a lot of fresh fish and seafood, salads, some veggies, and definitely some treats. Pacey-James, our little boy, is probably our biggest fan and ambassador. In fact, he's the boss. He comes into our cafe on the weekend and tells everybody that he's the boss. I tried to say the other day that he'll be the boss one day, and he said, "No, Mummy, I'm the boss now." And it's cute because everywhere we go and everywhere we see our signs and products out, he gets really excited. So the first thing he'll want to do on Christmas morning after opening Lego that he wants from Santa, we'll be enjoying some Christmas trees of our few other things, and then slowly moving into the Christmas lunch that I mentioned.
Oh, delicious. And do you have any recipes online for your treats that we could share, or are they all secret?
It's a good one. In fact, I should mention that we offer workshops to share some of our key recipes.
Do you?
We're going to do some online workshops next year so that people can join in. We are going to share a special Christmas recipe very soon. And it has something to do with chocolate and something to do with hazel. So if you follow our page, our Facebook and Instagram pages, you'll see that pop up very soon.
Oh, thank you. That'll be great. All right. Well, I'll put links in the show notes, and keep an eye on Instagram, guys, because the giveaway will be up within a couple of days, and we don't want you to miss out. So if you're only on Facebook, you need to get onto Instagram because this is just an Instagram giveaway. So, guys, it's going to be very delicious. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Shelley. And if anyone wants to contact you, they can just contact you through your website?
Yeah, absolutely. There's an inquiry page there, or through Facebook or Instagram. Yeah. I'd love to. Yeah, thank you everyone in advance for supporting our business. I guess most people would be aware that we had a pretty tough start to the year in Townsville.
Sorry, I did mean to mention that. Tell us, for those down south who may not know, maybe you want to just share a bit about that.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So we had a monsoon or flooding disaster here in February, which has taken a huge toll on our community, both at a personal and a business level. Even 9 months down the track, so many people are still out of their homes as the process of slowly rebuilding all the homes that were flooded in Townsville continues.
And all the mould remediation.
Absolutely, and so many houses were affected, and there's so much construction that can happen at once that so everyone's in a queue. And even this Christmas in the area that we live in, there are so many people still out of their homes. So it's been a tough year, and for us, like many businesses, we were affected both personally, losing our home and our business
You lost your home.
We did.
Oh, I didn't know. I'm so sorry to hear that.
Oh no, we're recovering it. Thank you. It was tricky because we were flooded a business at the same time, and
wow,
trying to deal with both at once with a little boy. One of the issues was that so many people needed a rental place to live, that they were taken up really quickly, and many people like myself leave town. So we ended up on Magnetic Island for a couple of months. Although it sounds like trying to fix a business, to find a new home and commute 6 days a week with a little one was
very overwhelming. I don't know how you managed to keep going. I take my hat off to you. Wow.
And it was very sad to see. We had to seriously consider what we were going to do with our business, because it was impacted for so long. We couldn't send our orders out of town, and we've got a lot of out-of-town customers for quite a long time because the roads are blocked. And naturally in Townsville, so many of our customers were so busy with trying to rebuild their lives that, treats were
on the bottom of the agenda.
Yeah, exactly. And whilst we totally understood that obviously placed a lot of stress on us. And a lot of our fellow business owners have had to make the hard decision to close this year because, of course, this flooding came on the back of a depressed regional economy. And it's been pretty tough in Townsville for a few years. So the flood was the final straw for many people.
For a lot of people, yeah.
So we're really fortunate that the community is really banded together and trying to help everybody rebuild, and the government's also giving businesses like ours a lot of support. But the key for all of us to build resilience in the future is expanding beyond our local market. So really getting the word out about our businesses to other parts of Australia. So I'm really grateful to you, Jo, for giving us the time to share what we do, and hoping to spread the word and actually come back stronger than we were.
Well, I've been seeing a lot of posts on Facebook. What's that group of businesses from like the areas that are affected by the fires?
Yeah, there's that, and there's also Buy from the Bush.
That's it. Buy from the Bush. And then there's, it's so good to see people getting behind these small businesses and saying, okay, well, if we can buy from them instead of someone overseas, we're going to help people in our own community. And I think that's really important right now in Australia, especially at Christmas time. Get behind the local businesses in areas where they're really struggling. It's not hard to buy something from these local businesses because there's so many good ones.
Yeah, absolutely. We're trying to do the same here, and we ourselves try to buy from regional suppliers so that we're all helping each other.
Yeah, it's so good that we can do that, help each other out. Well, thank you so much, and I hope that business keeps picking up for you, and that the devastation from the floods and the fires and people all over Australia working through, getting their businesses back up and running can have a good Christmas. And for those of you out there thinking of Christmas gifts, go and have a look at Nourishing Bites because you will not regret it.
Oh, thanks.
And we'll definitely get that giveaway up very soon on Instagram, so keep an eye out. And thank you so much, Shelley. It's been great to have you on the show.
My pleasure, Jo. Thank you for the opportunity.
Bye.
Bye.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.